The great hall of the Galactic Assembly stretched wider than any building on Earth. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Lights of every color filled the air. Beings from 100 different worlds sat in those seats. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no solid body at all. They all watched the small group of humans standing at the bottom. Ambassador Park Tae-ho stood at the front of the human delegation. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity in this place for 15 years. 15 years of insults, 15 years of being treated like a child. 15 years of watching other species laugh at his people. Today felt different. Today, the air in the chamber felt heavy. Tae-ho could sense that something bad was coming. The Velthari High Speaker stood at the central podium. His name was Korax, and he was a creature of blue skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled this assembly for 3,000 years. They believed they were the greatest beings in the universe. They believed humans were nothing more than clever animals who had somehow learned to build ships. Korax raised 2 of his arms for silence. The chamber fell quiet. "We gather today to discuss the Sol system," Korax announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "The system that contains the human homeworld." Tae-ho felt his stomach tighten. He looked at his assistant, a young woman named Han Su-min. She was barely 30 years old, but she had sharp eyes and a quick mind. She gave him a small nod. They had prepared for this. "For 50 years, humans have been members of this assembly," Korax continued. "In that time, they have contributed nothing of value. They have no ancient wisdom. They have no great technology. They are young. They are weak. They are—" He paused and smiled. "Primitive." Laughter spread through the chamber. Hundreds of alien voices made sounds of amusement. Tae-ho stood perfectly still. He had heard these words many times before. "However," Korax said, "the Sol system is rich in resources. The asteroid belt alone contains enough metal to build 10,000 ships. The gas giants hold fuel for 1,000,000 years. These resources are wasted in human hands." Tae-ho stepped forward. "High Speaker, I request permission to respond." Korax looked down at him with cold eyes. "You may speak, human, but keep it brief. We have important matters to discuss." More laughter. Tae-ho ignored it. "The Sol system belongs to humanity," Tae-ho said. His voice was calm and steady. "We have lived there for all of our history. Our ancestors are buried on Earth. Our children are born there. It is our home." "Home?" Korax repeated the word, as if it tasted bad. "Animals have homes. Civilized beings have territories granted by the Assembly. Humans were never granted the Sol system. You simply existed there when we found you." A delegate from the Mortith species stood up. He was a creature covered in black fur with red eyes that glowed in the dim light. "The High Speaker is correct. Humans have no legal claim to their system. They signed the membership treaty without reading the details. According to Article 7, Section 12, any unassigned territory can be redistributed by majority vote." Su-min leaned close to Tae-ho. "They planned this," she whispered. "They have been planning this for years." Tae-ho nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. The aliens had never liked humanity. Humans were too different. They grew too fast. They asked too many questions. They did not bow to those who considered themselves superior. "I propose a vote," Korax announced. "All resources in the Sol system will be transferred to Assembly control. Humans will be relocated to a colony world of our choosing. They will serve as workers for more advanced species. This is fitting for their level of development." The words hit Tae-ho like a physical blow. They wanted to take Earth. They wanted to make humanity into slaves. After 50 years of insults and mockery, the aliens were finally showing their true intentions. "You cannot do this," Tae-ho said. His voice remained calm, but there was iron beneath the words. "Earth is not yours to take." Korax laughed. "And who will stop us, human?" You have no fleet. You have no weapons. You have nothing but your primitive emotions and your small, fragile bodies. The chamber erupted in agreement. Aliens from dozens of species shouted their support. They pounded their appendages against their seats. They made sounds of triumph and celebration. Tejo looked around the room. He saw the hatred in their eyes. He saw the greed. He saw species that considered themselves wise and civilized, acting like predators around wounded prey. He thought about Earth. He thought about the green forests and blue oceans. He thought about the cities filled with billions of people who had no idea what was happening in this chamber. He thought about his grandchildren playing in parks, looking up at the stars with wonder. These creatures wanted to take all of that away. I request time, Tejo said. According to assembly rules, any member species can request 3 standard days to respond to a major proposal. Corex frowned. You wish to delay the inevitable? I wish to consult with my government. Surely the Great Galactic Assembly can allow such a simple request. The High Speaker considered this. Around him, other delegates muttered to each other. Finally, Corax nodded. Very well. You have 3 days, human. Use them to prepare your people for their new lives. Perhaps you can teach them to be good servants. He smiled with too many teeth. After all, humans are good at following orders. It is the only thing you do well. Tejo bowed his head slightly. It was not a bow of respect. It was a bow to hide the fire in his eyes. 3 days, he repeated. Thank you, High Speaker. He turned and walked toward the exit. Su-min and the rest of the human delegation followed him. The aliens watched them go with smug satisfaction. They believed they had won. They believed humanity would simply accept their fate. They had no idea what they had just done. Outside the chamber, Su-min grabbed Tejo's arm. Sir, what are we going to do? We cannot fight them. Their fleet is 1,000 times larger than ours. Tejo looked at her with eyes that had suddenly become very calm, very cold. We need to contact Admiral Yuna, he said. Tell her that Operation Silent Thunder is now active. Su-min's face went pale. Sir, that protocol was created for the worst possible situation. It means, I know what it means, Tejo said. And I think the time has come for the galaxy to learn what humanity really is. He walked toward the communications center with steady steps. Behind him, the sounds of alien celebration continued. They were already dividing Earth among themselves. They were already planning how to use human workers. They were already dreaming of the wealth they would steal. None of them noticed the small smile on the human ambassador's face. None of them understood that the most dangerous creature in the universe was not the one with the biggest claws or the strongest armor. It was the one that had learned to wait. The communication room was small and dark. Tejo sat alone in front of a screen that showed the face of Admiral Choi Yuna. She was a woman in her 60s with short silver hair and eyes like black stones. She had commanded the human fleet for 20 years. In all that time, she had never lost a battle. Not that the galaxy knew about her battles. Not that anyone outside Earth knew what humanity had been doing in the shadows. Tell me everything, Yuna said. Her voice was quiet but sharp. Tejo explained the situation. He told her about the vote, about the plan to take Earth, about the looks of hunger in alien eyes. When he finished, Yuna sat in silence for a long moment. They finally made their move, she said. We always knew this day would come. The question is, what we do now? Tejo replied. If we fight openly, they will crush us. Their combined fleet has over 2 million ships. Yuna smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. 2 million ships that they keep in known locations. 2 million ships that follow predictable patrol patterns. 2 million ships whose captains have never faced a real war. You sound confident. I am prepared. There is a difference. Yuna leaned forward. 50 years ago, when we first met the galaxy, we saw what they were. We saw how they treated younger species. We saw the Velthari crush entire civilizations for resources. We saw the Mordath use biological weapons on planets that refused to surrender. Tejo nodded. He remembered those early days. The shock of learning that humanity was not alone. The greater shock of learning that the universe was ruled by predators wearing the mask of civilization. So we pretended to be weak, Yuna continued. We let them mock us. We let them believe we were primitive. And while they laughed, we prepared. How many ships do we have? Tejo asked. Enough. Yuna's eyes glittered. Every mining colony, every research station, every cargo ship in human space has a hidden purpose. We built our fleet in pieces, spread across 100 locations. We developed weapons they cannot imagine. We trained soldiers they do not know exist. Tejo felt a weight lift from his chest. For years, he had played the fool in the assembly. He had swallowed insults and accepted abuse. All because he knew that somewhere, humanity was getting ready. What do you need from me? He asked. Go back to the assembly. Give them one final chance to change their minds. Make it clear and make it public. When they refuse, walk out. Do not say another word, just leave. And then we show them why they should have been afraid of us. The connection ended. Tejo sat alone in the dark room for a while. He thought about what was coming. War had not touched human space in 50 years. A whole generation had grown up in peace. They had never known the sound of explosions or the smell of burning cities. That peace was about to end. He stood and walked back to the human quarters. Su-min was waiting for him with the rest of the delegation. There were 12 of them in total. Diplomats, translators, assistants. They all looked at him with frightened eyes. I spoke with the admiral, Tejo said. We have a plan. What kind of plan? Asked Kim Dong-won, the youngest member of the delegation. He was only 25, fresh from the diplomatic academy. We cannot win a war against the entire galaxy. Unquote. Tejo looked at him with something like pity. You think you know what humanity is capable of? You do not. None of you do. The truth has been kept secret for your entire lives. What truth? Su-min asked. Tejo paused. He had sworn an oath never to reveal what he knew. But these people were about to risk their lives. They deserved to understand why. 50 years ago, we made first contact with the Velthari, he began. They came to Earth with a fleet of 100 ships. They expected us to bow. They expected us to be grateful for their attention. Instead, we destroyed 20 of their ships in the first hour. The delegation stared at him in shock. That battle was erased from public records. Both sides agreed to pretend it never happened. The Velthari were embarrassed. They could not admit that a primitive species had hurt them. And we realized that we needed time. Time to understand galactic technology. Time to build our forces. Time to prepare for the day when they would come for us in full strength. So the last 50 years, Dong-won whispered, were a performance. Every time I smiled at an insult, every time I accepted abuse, I was buying time. And now, that time is over. Su-min stepped forward. What do you need us to do? Tomorrow, we return to the assembly. We will give them one chance to cancel their vote. One chance to treat humanity as equals. They will refuse. They always refuse. And when they do, we walk out. All of us. Together, in complete silence. What happens after that? Dong-won asked. Tejo did not answer. He did not need to. They all understood. The next morning, the human delegation returned to the assembly chamber. Word had spread about the upcoming vote. The hall was even more crowded than before. Aliens from every corner of the galaxy had come to watch humanity fall. Korak stood at his podium with a smile of triumph. Ah, the humans return. Have you come to accept your fate? Tejo walked to the center of the floor. He stood tall and straight. Every eye in the chamber was on him. High Speaker, he said. His voice carried to every corner of the room. I come with a message from the government of Earth. Speak then, human. We are all eager to hear your surrender. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Tejo waited for it to fade. Earth asks the assembly to cancel the vote. We ask for recognition of human rights to our home system. We ask to be treated as equals under galactic law. Korax's smile widened. And, If we refuse, then there will be consequences. The laughter stopped. Something in Tejo's voice made the aliens pause. For just a moment, they saw something in his eyes that they did not understand. Something cold. Something dangerous. Then Corax laughed again, and the moment passed. Consequences? From humans? He gestured at the assembly. You have no power here. You have no fleet. You have no weapons. You are nothing but talking animals who forgot their place. A Mortith delegate stood up. His black fur bristled with excitement. Let us vote now. I grow tired of these human games. Cheers erupted from across the chamber. Hundreds of voices called for the vote. They wanted to humiliate humanity. They wanted to show the galaxy what happened to weak species. Tejo raised his hand. The gesture was so unexpected that the chamber fell silent. Before you vote, he said, I want you to remember this moment. Remember the choice you made. Remember that we offered peace. We do not need peace with animals, Corax sneered. We need obedience. Tejo nodded slowly. He reached up and removed the translator device from his ear. Without it, he could not understand the aliens, and they could not understand him. But somehow, when he spoke his next word, every being in the chamber understood. Goodbye. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the human delegation followed in perfect silence. 12 humans, walking out of an assembly of thousands. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. Nobody moved to stop them. Nobody spoke. For reasons they could not explain, every alien in that chamber felt a chill run through their body. The great doors closed behind the humans, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silence in the assembly chamber lasted for exactly 7 seconds. Then it shattered into chaos. Delegates jumped from their seats. They shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Some demanded that the humans be dragged back. Others laughed and called the walkout a childish tantrum. A few, the oldest and wisest, sat quietly and stared at the closed doors with worried eyes. Corax pounded his podium for order. Silence. This changes nothing. The vote will proceed as planned. A Velthari senator named Torak pushed his way to the floor. He was young for his species, barely 300 years old, and known for his careful thinking. High Speaker, perhaps we should pause, Torak suggested. The human ambassador's behavior was strange. There may be something we do not understand. What is there to understand? Corax demanded. They are weak. They are afraid. They ran away like the animals they are. Doesn't, but his eyes, Torak said quietly. Did you not see his eyes? There was no fear in them. There was something else. Corax waved his hand dismissively. I do not care about human eyes. Begin the vote. The vote passed easily. 947 species voted in favor of taking the Sol system. 12 voted against. The rest abstained. It was the largest majority in assembly history. Corax announced the result with great satisfaction. It is done. The human homeworld now belongs to the assembly. We will send a fleet to occupy Earth within 10 standard days. Cheers filled the chamber. Delegates congratulated each other. They were already making plans for how to use human labor. The Mortith wanted them for mining. The Velthari wanted them for household service. A species called the Krithani wanted to study their biology. Nobody noticed that all human communication channels had gone dark. In the hours that followed, strange reports began to arrive. A trade ship passing through human space found nothing. No signals. No ships. No response to any call. It was as if every human in the galaxy had simply vanished. They are hiding, Corax said when he heard the news, cowering in their homes. Send scouts to locate their fleet. The scouts were sent. None returned. 3 standard days after the walkout, a Velthari patrol near the outer reaches of their territory detected something unusual. A ship was approaching. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle, and it carried no weapons, but it moved faster than anything they had ever seen. The patrol commander, An officer named Vekris opened a communication channel. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. The screen flickered. A human face appeared. It was a woman with sharp features and cold eyes. She wore a military uniform that Vekris did not recognize. "This is Captain Bei Mi-young of the Human Defense Force," she said. "I am delivering a message to the Velthari homeworld." Vekris felt confusion wash over him. The Velthari homeworld? That is in the heart of our territory. You would have to pass through 1,000 defensive stations. Captain Bei smiled slightly. "I already did." Vekris checked his sensors. The human ship had indeed come from deep within Velthari space. That was impossible. The defensive network would have destroyed any unauthorized vessel. "What message do you carry?" Vekris asked. "Turn on your galactic news feed. The message is for everyone." Vekris hesitated. Something about the woman's calm confidence frightened him. He switched to the galactic news frequency. The screen showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots were appearing all over it. Hundreds of dots. Thousands of dots. Each one was labeled with the same word. Human. A voice began to speak. It was Ambassador Park Tae-ho, citizens of the galaxy. For 50 years, humanity has been a member of your assembly. For 50 years, we have been mocked, insulted, and treated as inferior beings. We accepted this treatment because we believed that peace was worth any price. The map continued to update. The red dots now numbered in the tens of thousands. They appeared in every sector, every region, every corner of known space. 3 days ago, the Assembly voted to steal our home. They voted to make our people into slaves. They believed we had no power to resist. They were wrong. Images began to appear alongside the map. Human warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Massive vessels bristling with weapons. Fleets so large they blocked out the light of stars. Soldiers in advanced armor standing in perfect formation. For 50 years, we have been preparing. Every trade ship that visited human space reported what they saw. A primitive civilization struggling to survive. What they did not see was the truth hidden beneath the surface. The images shifted. Underground factories producing weapons. Hidden shipyards building thousands of vessels. Research facilities developing technology that made galactic science look like children's toys. We did not want war. We wanted to live in peace among the stars. But you gave us no choice. You saw our kindness as weakness. You saw our patience as fear. You were wrong. Taeho's face appeared on the screen. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. "I am speaking now to the leaders of the Assembly. You have 12 standard hours to cancel your vote. You have 12 hours to recognize human rights to our system. You have 12 hours to apologize for 50 years of abuse." He paused. "After 12 hours, we will no longer be asking." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings stared at their screens in stunned silence. The red dots on the map had stopped appearing. The final count showed over 100,000 human vessels spread throughout galactic space. 100,000 ships that no one had known existed. On the Velthari patrol ship, Vekris sat frozen at his station. Captain Bei's image was still on his screen. She was watching him with patient eyes. "How?" he whispered. "How did you hide so many ships?" "We did not hide them," she replied. "You simply did not look. You were so certain of your superiority that you never bothered to check. But our sensors, our spy networks, saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Primitive humans struggling with basic technology. Clumsy ships barely capable of faster than light travel. A species so far beneath you that they were not worth watching closely." Vekris felt sick. His entire understanding of the universe was crumbling. The weak species was strong. The primitive species was advanced. Everything he knew was a lie. "What happens now?" he asked. Captain Bei turned her ship toward the edge of the system. "Now we wait. 12 hours is not a long time, but it is long enough for your leaders to make a choice. And if they choose wrong..." She looked back at him one final time. Her eyes were sad but determined. "Then I am very sorry for what comes next." The human ship vanished into the darkness of space. Vekris sat alone on his bridge, staring at the map still displayed on his screen. 100,000 red dots. 100,000 human warships. And somewhere out there, a species that had been underestimated for the last time. Panic spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Velthari High Council met in emergency session. Korax stood before them, his blue skin pale with shock. The other council members shouted questions and accusations. How had this happened? Why had no one seen the truth? Who was responsible for this disaster? "We must strike first," demanded General Malkov, commander of the Velthari military. "Attack their fleet before they can organize. Destroy them while we still can." "With what?" Korax asked bitterly. "Our forces are scattered across the Empire. The humans have ships in every sector. By the time we gather our fleet, they will have already won." A younger council member spoke up. "Then, perhaps we should accept their terms. Cancel the vote. Give them what they want." "Never." Malkov slammed his fist against the table. "The Velthari do not bow to lesser species. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not surrender to humans." "They are not asking for surrender," the young member pointed out. "They are asking for equality. They want the same rights as any other species." Equality with animals? That is worse than surrender. The argument continued for hours. Meanwhile, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships were everywhere. They sat in silent orbit around key systems. They blocked major trade routes. They surrounded military installations. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply watched. That was somehow more terrifying than any weapon. On the Mordith homeworld, similar scenes played out. The black-furred species had always been warriors. They had conquered dozens of systems through force and fear. Now they faced an enemy they could not understand. "Their ships are strange," reported Admiral Vren, studying the sensor data. "The design is unlike anything in our records. The power signatures suggest weapons we cannot identify. Can we defeat them?" asked the Mordith Prime Minister. Vren hesitated. He was old, with gray fur and scars from 100 battles. He had never shown fear in his life. But today, his hands trembled. "I do not know," he admitted. "And that is what frightens me. In all my years, I have never faced an enemy I could not measure. I have never seen weapons I could not understand. The humans have been hiding for 50 years. What else do they have that we have not seen?" 8 hours passed. Then 9. Then 10. The Galactic Assembly gathered again. The mood was very different from the celebration 3 days before. Delegates whispered nervously. Some seats were empty, their occupants having fled to their homeworlds. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Korax stood at his podium, but he no longer looked confident. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His eyes were sunken and tired. "We must discuss the human ultimatum," he announced. "What is there to discuss?" shouted a delegate from the Krithani species. "Cancel the vote. Give them what they want. I did not agree to a war with hidden monsters." "Coward!" another delegate screamed. "We cannot show weakness. Is it weakness to survive?" The chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries now turned against each other. Everyone wanted to blame someone else. Everyone wanted to find a way out. Senator Torak stood slowly. He was one of the few who had warned against the vote. Now he walked to the center of the floor. "May I speak?" The shouting died down. Even in crisis, the assembly respected certain traditions. Torak looked around the room with sad eyes. 50 years ago, we found a young species on a small planet, in an unremarkable system. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They were excited. They were curious. They wanted to be our friends. He paused, letting the words sink in. We could have welcomed them. We could have taught them. We could have made them allies. Instead, we laughed at them. We called them animals. We denied them rights that we give freely to species far younger and far weaker. No one interrupted. The truth of his words was impossible to deny. They offered us friendship, and we gave them contempt. They showed us patience. And we called it weakness. They tried to earn our respect. And we plotted to steal their world. Torak turned to face Korax directly. High Speaker, I do not know if the humans will forgive us. I do not know if peace is still possible. But I know this. Every disaster of the past 3 days began with our own pride. We created this enemy. We gave them every reason to hate us. And now we must face the consequences. Korax opened his mouth to respond. But a new message flashed on every screen in the chamber. 2 hours remaining. The deadline was approaching. 2 hours until the humans stopped asking and started acting. 2 hours to decide the fate of the galaxy. General Malkov pushed his way to the floor. This is madness. We cannot surrender to threats. I say we call their bluff. Humans are soft. They value life too much. They will not actually start a war. And if you are wrong, Torak asked quietly, then we fight. Better to die with honor than live as equals to primitive beasts. A cold voice cut through the chamber. You speak of honor, but you have none. Everyone turned. Standing at the entrance was Ambassador Park Tae-ho. He was alone. He carried no weapons. But somehow, he seemed more dangerous than an army. You speak of honor, he repeated, walking slowly toward the center. Yet you plan to enslave billions of innocent people. You speak of civilization. Yet you treat younger species as property. You speak of wisdom. Yet you cannot see the simple truth in front of your eyes. And what truth is that, human? Korax demanded. Tae-ho stopped at the center of the floor. He looked up at the thousands of aliens watching him. His face showed no fear, only sadness. That power is not the same as strength. That cruelty is not the same as superiority. That the measure of a civilization is not how it treats the powerful, but how it treats the weak. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Every alien in the room tensed, expecting a weapon. Instead, Tae-ho placed it on the floor. A hologram appeared, showing Earth from space, the blue oceans, the green continents, the white clouds. This is our home, he said. This is what you tried to take. Not resources, not territory. A home. The place where our children grow up. The place where our ancestors are buried. The place we love more than our own lives. He looked at Korax with eyes that burned with quiet fire. You have 1 hour and 53 minutes. Use them wisely. He turned and walked out of the chamber. Nobody tried to stop him. Nobody said a word. The hologram of Earth remained, spinning slowly in the silence. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Assembly knew what it felt like to be afraid. 1 hour remained. 59 minutes. 58. The Galactic Assembly descended into its final debate. Every speaker who rose to the floor had a different opinion. Some demanded war. Some begged for surrender. Some tried to find middle ground. None could agree. Senator Torak watched the chaos with growing despair. He had seen empires fall. He had witnessed the death of civilizations. And he recognized the signs of approaching doom. We are running out of time, he said to no one in particular. General Malkov grabbed the podium. His voice thundered through the chamber. Listen to me. All of you. The humans are bluffing. They must be bluffing. No species hides their true strength for 50 years. It makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Torak replied quietly. They learned from us. They watched how we treat the weak. They decided not to be weak anymore. Then we teach them their place. We gather our combined fleets and crush them. You saw the map. 100,000 ships. And those are just the ones they showed us. How many more are hidden? How many weapons do they have that we have never seen? Malkov had no answer. The truth was that nobody knew what humanity was truly capable of. After 50 years of lies, nothing could be trusted. 30 minutes remained. High Speaker Korax stood at his podium, staring at the hologram of Earth. Such a small planet. Such a young species. How had they become so dangerous? How had the mighty Velthari Empire failed to see the threat? Pride, he realized. Pride had blinded them all. They had been so certain of their own superiority that they never imagined a lesser species could surpass them. They had mocked humans for being young, never considering that youth might be an advantage. Fresh eyes, new ideas, the hunger to prove themselves. The Velthari were 3,000 years old. They had stopped growing centuries ago. They had become comfortable in their power, lazy in their wisdom, and now a species barely out of its infancy was about to bring them to their knees. "High Speaker," called a messenger. "A ship has arrived. It is human." Korax felt his heart's freeze. "Are we under attack?" Graft. "No, sir. The ship is requesting permission to dock. Ambassador Park Tae-ho wishes to address the assembly one final time." Quote, murmurs swept through the chamber. What could the humans want now? Was this a final ultimatum? A declaration of war? Or something else entirely? "Let him in," Korax said heavily. "We might as well hear what he has to say." The great doors opened. Ambassador Park Tae-ho walked in, just as he had 3 days before. But this time, he carried a document in his hands, physical paper, which was unusual in an age of digital communication. Paper meant permanence. Paper meant this moment would be remembered. He walked to the center of the floor and placed the document on the speaker's platform. Then he turned to face the assembly. "I come with an offer," he announced. "Not a threat, not a demand. An offer." The chamber fell silent. Every eye was fixed on the human. Humanity does not want war. We never wanted war. We built our fleet because we had no choice. We hid our strength because you would have destroyed us if you had known. We prepared for battle because you gave us no other option. He gestured at the document. This is a new treaty. It grants humanity full rights as a member species of the Assembly. Equal voting power. Equal protection under law. Equal respect. And if we refuse? Korax asked, though he already knew the answer. Tae-ho met his eyes without flinching. Then we will defend ourselves. Your combined fleet outnumbers ours. But our technology is generations ahead of yours. Our soldiers have trained for this day their entire lives, and we are fighting for our home, while you would be fighting for pride. He paused. You would lose, High Speaker. Badly. And the galaxy would never recover. The silence stretched on. Korax looked at the document. Such a simple thing. A few pages of paper that could save or doom trillions of lives. Why? He finally asked. Why offer peace at all? If you are so strong, why not simply crush us? Tae-ho's expression softened slightly. For just a moment, he looked tired. Old. Human. Because we are not like you, he said. We do not believe that power gives you the right to destroy. We do not think that strength means cruelty. We built weapons so that we would never have to use them. He picked up the document and held it out. Sign this treaty, and we can start over. Not as masters and servants, but as equals. Not as enemies, but as neighbors. The past 50 years were built on lies and fear. Let the next 50 years be built on truth and respect. Korax hesitated. His pride screamed at him to refuse. 3,000 years of Velthari superiority demanded that he reject this human's offer. The galaxy was watching. His legacy was at stake. But then he looked at the hologram of Earth, still spinning slowly at the edge of the floor. He thought about the humans who lived there, the children who played in parks, the families who gathered for meals, the dreams and hopes of billions of people, and he thought about his own people. The Velthari children who would die in a war they did not choose. The families that would be torn apart. The dreams that would turn to ash. Was pride worth so much death? Slowly, heavily, High Speaker Korax walked down from his podium. He took the document from Tae-ho's hands. He read through it carefully, noting every clause and condition. Then he picked up a writing tool and signed his name. It is done, he said quietly. May history judge us fairly. One by one, the other leaders of the assembly came forward. The Mordith Prime Minister signed. The Krithani delegate signed. Senator Torak signed with tears in his ancient eyes. Species after species added their names to the treaty. When it was finished, Tejo took the document and placed it back in his coat. He looked around the chamber at the beings who had mocked and insulted humanity for 50 years. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for choosing peace." The assembly sat in stunned silence. After everything they had done, after all the abuse and contempt, the human was thanking them. It was more humiliating than any weapon could have been, but it was also, somehow, the beginning of healing. 3 days later, the first joint human-alien mission launched. A Velthari ship and a human ship, traveling together to explore an unknown region of space. The crews were nervous at first, uncertain how to interact with their former enemies, but somewhere along the way, they began to talk. They shared stories about their homes, their families, their dreams. They discovered that they had more in common than they had ever imagined. And back on Earth, Ambassador Park Tae-ho sat in his garden, watching the sunset. He thought about everything that had happened. The walkout, the fear, the treaty. He thought about his grandchildren, who would grow up in a galaxy where humans were respected. He thought about all the generations that would follow, building bridges with species they had once feared. Admiral Choi Yuna sat beside him, sharing a bottle of rice wine. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "The peace?" Tae-ho considered the question. "I do not know. Peace is fragile. It requires constant work. Then was it worth it? 50 years of preparation? All those ships we built?" The old ambassador smiled and raised his glass to the stars. "The best weapon is the one you never have to use. We showed them our strength, so that we would never need to prove it. And now, perhaps we can finally be what humanity was always meant to be." What is that? Not conquerors, not warriors, just people trying to find their place among the stars, together with everyone else who is looking for the same thing. The sun disappeared below the horizon. The stars came out, bright and countless, and somewhere in the great darkness of space, a galaxy that had once watched humans in fear now watched them with something new: hope.